In today's world where it seems like we're always talking, it's important to remember to listen. And today we're going to be talking to Athina Salazar on the subject of mastering the art of active listening. Welcome to Entrepreneurs SOS with your hosts, Sandy Calling and Monique Mall. This podcast is designed to help entrepreneurs use systems, structures, and organization to help build more profitable businesses. Make sure to hit those subscribe notification buttons so you don't miss our weekly episodes. So I am super excited today to welcome Athina Salazar. Athina and I met a few years back through networking and just immediately hit a chord and just really enjoyed talking to her. She is the Chief Possibility Officer of Life 2 Design and also a leadership coach. Athina has been described as an inspirational and empowering leader who's been the catalyst of transformation for individuals and businesses all over the world. And I, on a side note, have actually seen that. Her diverse background has allowed her to work in multiple industries, given her perceptive insights with the ability to actively listen. And we'll give you some more details on where to find Athina, but her website is life2design.com. So Athina, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. It's been a while and I'm so excited to actually see you. But listening, right? Listening is something that, communication is important, but the listening piece I think is probably even more important in this day and age with technology and just always out there. I think a lot of us have not stopped to slow down to really hear and listen what others are saying. So I love that you have not mastered maybe, but have this topic, mastering the art of listening. So do you want to share a little bit about that with us?
Oh, yes. So when I started doing my coaching, awareness is one of the largest or the biggest issues that many people have. They are concerned about, perception of others, sort of that direction, especially when an entrepreneur is leading their organization. They want to be perceived in a certain way. So I found that focusing in on communication and even their ability to actively listen to themselves was one of the key things in order for that person to be able to move forward, make changes in their organizations, even start their businesses as startups, is really listening to others, what they're saying or what they're not saying, also themselves. The biggest one is themselves, because that chatter in your head is, if you're not controlling that and understanding how to use it to your advantage, that's where you can be at a significant disadvantage in moving forward.
So listening to yourself, and I actually love that. Are you also talking? So I remember when I used to talk to people or call them to prospect for various businesses, I would actually record myself to listen to myself and I'd be like, cringe. Is that something that you mean by listening to yourself, or are you talking about more like what's going on in your head? Or
it's
both?
Multiple aspects, really. That's part of it. But even understanding, so with listening, it actually starts before you even have the interaction with someone. So your intention of your thoughts about the person are going to affect your ability to even listen to what it is that they're saying.
Can you repeat that again? Because I think that's
good.
So
powerful.
That was like a mic drop moment for I think people, and maybe explain that because that was huge.
Yeah. So if we take that back, if you are, before you even come into contact with someone, what is your intention and what are your thoughts about that person before you even start your interaction with them? So that's where it's listening to what, like if you're rushing, so there's many business owners like it's go, 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 right? So when you're like that, you're not operating from your actual place of power. You're operating from a very thin edge of communication. You're not actually connecting with that person before you even go to approach them. So go ahead.
So question. So being present, is that also part, like really being intentional and present? Is that how you would describe it?
So I would describe it as yes. So that would be the first is figuring out your focus. So for example, if you were going to go into a sales situation like you were talking about, Sandy, if you were to, before you even got on the phone, you're thinking about that person. Maybe you're like, oh, Julie, what do I think about Julie? I think she's really going to benefit from what it is that I'm going to be sharing with her. And I know that she's, been going through some challenges from what I've heard, and I really want to be there for her, in any way possible. I can see her using what I have and what I know in order to help her in any way. If we make the sale, great. And if we don't, great. I just want to have a good interaction.
So you're really considering like the energy that you bring to the interaction between the person before, and that intention is really crucial to the connective and listening piece.
Yeah, because
that's amazing. That's a great tip.
If you can do that and have that awareness of, is my intention when I go into situations from the core of who I am, I want to be of service, or if you don't think about this, you're coming from a place of what can I get from the person, instead of how can we actually have an interaction that's going to benefit both of us and be a win-win, because it might not result in a sale at that moment, but it could be, I felt so comfortable with this person that I will refer them. I will lead them to somebody else. I understand what it is that they're doing, and they were trying to help me, but it didn't fit for me, but I can help them. So there's no ever burning of a bridge or anything like that and being like dismissive. It's more of like, how in our communication and our action can we actually come together as people, and then figure out if there's some way through my business, or I've done that many times. Hey, like, it's not me in your situation that you're in right now. There's actually somebody that I know that could help you out at this point. And then there could be a way that we could, work together later, or something like that. So it's always looking for, what is that intention in setting that before you have the interaction. And then, yes, Sandy, like you were talking about being present. I know with me, when I was running the buildings, I would be go, go, go. And it drains you so much, so much. Like by the end of the day, you just want to collapse because you're just pushing through and pushing through and pushing through. But even before now, in situations, when I go into the situation with somebody else, they're saying, oh my God, how could you go and do that event all day, be speaking, be managing, be doing all these things, and you're not passed out at the end of the day? It's because before I even started, I thought, what kind of interaction? I want to have a good time. I want to be able to have a good experience, go through and see those aha moments in people's eyes, as you're going through things, if they're sharing, if I'm sharing. And that's my intention of what I want generally for the day. If things go wrong, no big deal. Things are going to go the way that they go. It's always working out. It may not look right in the moment, but eventually, the right things are going to happen. So then with that intention, you just enjoy the time that you have during the day. And by the end of the day, you're like, hey, let's go out, just hang out maybe, or something like that. But it's not where it's completely draining you. So if you can actually develop these skills, then you're going to be able to more fully be able to go out throughout your day to be able to glean the most out of that and every communication, every interaction that you have with someone.
And I witnessed that when we supported that event together a few years ago, pre-COVID. Yeah. And I really saw your posture around that. And that's a memory that I just remembered when you said that. So let me ask you this, Athina, to go back to the listening. Obviously, with the day and age of Zoom and and it's not so much more. Yeah. Unfortunately, I hope we go back to more interpersonal, in a room connection. Is there anything that you do differently when you interact with a person in person or on Zoom or just even on the phone? or is it like all the same?
I would say as you develop the skill set, it's all the same, because there can be people on the other side of the world that you're talking to, and you can still connect with them the same way as if you were in person with them. So if you're perceiving, yourself is perceiving that this technology is between us and it's a hindrance, if you're thinking that already, it's going to be a problem.
Right. That's great. I love that.
So,
That's so
so
true.
if you're like, this technology is allowing me to be able to reach somebody where there's no way that I could be in front of them.
Totally agree.
So it's the same thing. I mean, I love that with technology. I've done a lot of nonprofit work, and I actually helped start an orphanage in India without ever stepping foot in India. But I was able, through technology, being able to communicate through WhatsApp, or things like that, to be able to figure out, what is it that you need? What can we do over here? And allow just where I am in my world to expand that. So when you're looking at technology, you're looking at technology as a help to be able to expand your voice and where that can go, and to be able to touch people, not necessarily physically, but by your interaction with them. They feel that from you. They feel that compassion, they feel that you care. That's really all that sales is as well.
There's something that reminds me of, because I remember going to a lot of networking meetings and always feeling like that icky feeling. First, when I started, because I was going like with the idea of what can I get out of this? And then as I grew in my business and into myself, I realized that wasn't how it worked. But there are so many people that you can feel that energy when you're speaking to them. Like they don't want to be bothered with you because you may not be the right connection or a prospect for them. And I think that's a really important point for people to look at. Like, how are you showing up at these in-person or even online events? Are you showing up where you can be of service and you can just meet people? Like, I only go to one networking whole thing at all, period. Now I go to one meeting, and I go there because that particular group of people, for me, they have that energy. And it's the only one that I've ever gone to where I feel like everybody in the room has that energy. And I think that's what makes networking really powerful, is when you show up figuring out how you can help other people. So I think that's
the whole point of networking.
And like,
but I don't think people understand that. Like, I personally think a lot of people think networking is like, what can I
throw
get
on
for
their business
myself?
card?
Like, where can I go and fish in this pond? Where can
Whose
I fish
business
in this
card
again,
can I?
Well, I think
and I
that's
love what
so
you said.
good for people that are starting out.
And I also think it's great that you said, Athena, take yourself out of the equation. Like, it's not about me. If I know, I have a friend, Monique, she would be so good for you right now. It's not me that you're looking for. Monique, before was when I first started out, I was like,
it was awful. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to talk to me. I was like, oh, she's horrible. She's a horrible human being.
But
we call it commission breath. It's like, can't wait to get that sale, oh my God.
Yeah. So that really reminds me of in situations in the workplace, not even in networking, because if you're managing organizations and you're at the top, everything is focused on you. It's your fault for everything, right? So good and bad, it's you, right? So there's an example of where I was executive director of skilled nursing and assisted living facilities. In that environment, you have family members where the family feels so guilty for placing their parent inside of a facility, and we're there to take care of them. So we adhere to their wishes, all of that. So there were times where I had family members coming into my office and just yelling in my face, like, you are doing everything wrong. You didn't do what we said we were going to do, you were going to do, or different things like that, or just attacking, right? So like you said, take yourself out of the equation, because I know that person's reflecting something. It's not me they're mad at. More than likely, they're mad at themselves for being in this situation. And then I would just let them know, your mom or your dad is the one that requested to eat something in particular. It was even
She wanted
food,
the Doritos, by the
I had to eat
way.
this, and it's all like they wanted dessert.
Right.
Like they wanted it,
She wants some
and it's all,
cheesecake.
they wanted it and to enjoy it. They enjoyed it. And we're all like, we adhere to their wishes. If it's outside of safety, if it's not safe, obviously we're not going to do that. But if it's something where it's like, hey, I would really like that. Could you do that? Or, hey, I want to go to sleep at 10 o'clock and watch this show, and they're all like, they got to be to bed by 8. It's like, no, I don't. They're a grown adult,
Settle down.
So it's like situations like that. So then by the time that we came out of that situation, there were many times that they would be crying before they walked out the door.
Aww.
Because all they really wanted to do was vent and just let it out. And then they let it out. And for me, I'm like, I know they're not directing it at me.
Right.
They're directing it. Like if somebody else were looking in that communication, they would think that they're just attacking this woman and yelling at her. And why isn't she defending herself? And stuff like that. But if you really listen for what's not being said, then you're going to be able to see, oh, I get it. Right. And then they would be able to see what I was doing is like, just let them diarrhea the mouth, get it out, breathe, and then be able to be like, yeah, I love my mom and dad.
Right.
And I was just enforcing control over the situation where I've paid you and everybody here to make their last years pleasant as can be. And then now you can go home, you can go to work and not have to worry about anything and come and just enjoy your time with them.
Right.
That's your job. That's it.
And it comes to mind as like, talking about communication at airports when something goes wrong with the flights and they get yelled. And I always feel so horrible because these poor people, but like you said, they're just frustrated and they have to find somebody to vent to. And I've seen both. I've seen some of the guard or the gate attendants just, lose their SHIT and others, just staying super calm. So I love that.
Yeah, and that's where everybody, all relationships and all communication is a reflection of really what's going on with you.
I have a question.
And then people will project themselves onto you, like you're the problem or whatever. It's like, move that finger in the other direction,
Yeah. Is there any phrases that you have used in those situations that you feel help diffuse, especially when we're talking about entrepreneurships, you have team members or something like that, people come at you. Is there any phrases that you have felt that diffuse the situation?
I don't believe it would be a particular phrase. I think probably what I would be thinking of at the moment is they're really hurting in some way. And I don't want to make them hurt more. I want to actually listen to what it is that they're really saying. Because there could be a situation in the work that's happening where they're feeling burnout, they're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe they've been asked to task something that they don't want to admit that they don't have the skill set or they're not confident about it. So how can I help them and really find out where the core is of what it is that they're saying to help them to be like, maybe they need some other skills on being a manager and they're frustrated with the people that are working for them. Like I can't get them to do what I want them, or something like that. So it's really just assessing the situation on the fact of, my responsibility as the leader of the organization is to set the example, for one, especially because your standard is going to be out there. So your staff, whoever's working for you or with you as a team, is going to reflect the values that you have. So if you are able to communicate with that person and empower them, then all your interactions, your customers' interactions are going to be better. So many times I've gone into organizations where initially they're pointing the finger at that manager's the problem, this person's the problem, all of those different things. And we're like, well, wait a second, let's really focus in on you first. And when that happens, all of a sudden the people move on. They self-select to leave, or they're like, I feel like I'm being heard now. I feel like I'm really being listened to now, and my opinion matters. And even if we don't go with that opinion, at least I was able to voice that without feeling judged. And then that results in shifting of the organization.
So also teaching a person in that situation to listen, because it probably is oftentimes that they just don't even listen. Like everything is going,
Yeah.
but there's no stop and breathe and listen.
Yeah. It's
And
one of those things where the faster you want to go, you take it a little slower first. So then you can get that traction and then be able to take off. Because if you just take off and keep going, you're going to be skidding all over the place.
Yeah. Well, and I also think energetically too, I think energy is actually, or how we show up energetically is also a form of communication. And, just stopping, breathing, listening.
And that's where with like a woman entrepreneur versus like a male energy entrepreneur, that's where women really have that superpower that if they harness that, they can actually use that, because they can hear everything that's happening and they can read the body language that's going on. They're much more perceptive of those things. And also people that are more introverted have that. A lot of times when I talk to introverted people, they're like, I'm not a really good communicator. And like, I don't talk all the time, and stuff. I'm like, it's not just about talking. It's about listening. It's actually talking to respond instead of reacting to something, where more of an extroverted person in their communication, they speak more because it triggers those ideas through that verbal interaction and a lot of talking. They can get to where they want to go as long as a person leaves it open for that. So so that's their natural communication style. So understanding those differences with people and knowing that, the one that wants to stay against the wall at the networking event, they're actually observing the whole situation and being very purposeful. With that, like Monique, you were talking about going to networking events. So before I even go to a networking event, I'm like, how can I be of highest service? The right people are going to come to me that I can be of help with today. And I may not talk to everybody there, but it ends up that those are the people that come to me. And I like look through the crowd and I'm all like, that one, and that one.
So it's really being present, and awareness boils down back to awareness, right?
Yeah. So when I'm there, exactly. So when I'm there, then it's a situation where that person comes and then you're fully present in that moment. And then you're almost like taking yourself out of it.
Yeah. I love that. Gosh, this has been great. I've seen you in person interact at large events, and I've observed this, and it really does emanate like posture and good quality and professionalism. So I really, really love that.
Skill. So that's the other thing, because some people, when they see you now, like you're talking about, Sandy, in situations, it doesn't mean I was like that my whole life. It's like, that's something where it's like, oh, they see people polished or whatever, and they're all, oh, I could never be like that, and stuff. And it's all like, it's a skill. If a human can learn this, anybody can learn
right.
it.
Yeah.
It's all like, it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter.
I have
I get
learned
it.
one
Yep.
trick because I'm a speaker. I'm a talker.
Mhm.
I've just been since I've been a kid. I've always been a talker. And so when I feel like I'm one of those people, I'm not extroverted, but I feel like sometimes the need to impulsively, I get an idea. So I've learned a little trick that I do when I'm at like events. I like stick my tongue against my tooth. So I don't speak because then I'm like
that's
not
funny.
speaking because you impulsively sometimes have these ideas that you're like, oh my God, this is so great. But you realize that you're not being present with that person. And so that was something I had to learn a balance on. And so I just did this like trick, like I'm sticking my tongue against the front of my teeth. And then when they're done speaking, it can move. So, I mean, it is really a skill that you have to like learn.
Oh yeah. And in a situation like that, there are people that I know where I know they're like that and they really want to communicate like that and have the ideas like this. And you can take those ideas and and open those up. If somebody that has that, see, like you do to want to communicate like that, and understanding that I would communicate with you in that way where it'd be like helping you to remove your tongue from your tooth and just like let it out. You know,
well, I feel like you don't want to be overbearing,
that situation,
right?
And I know with somebody else, I would be like, I would just have a calmer demeanor or, you know, have that energy. But that's where the adaptability and understanding yourself and your ability to do that, because then, hey, I know that's going to be of service to you, to be able to allow you that space. And that's why it's the chief possibility officer, because I see everyone
like that.
In what it is. If it came out of your mouth and that's your vision for what you see, I know that there's a way to do it. There's just something that's stopping you from doing it.
Well, and I feel like when you're with people, as you get better at it, you know who you can be that with. You can feel that energy exchange. And so I know now when to hold back and when I'm in the presence of someone where it's just flow and we can just go. But it's like that learned skill that took years and years of honing because I did not have it. I did not have it. And I did not have a filter either.
Yeah. And it's just knowing it's never going to be perfect. No. And it's never like in the course that I have, it's all like, there's going to be mistakes. What do you do when you screw up? You know, it's like,
Yeah, exactly. And I love the chief possibility officer. And I'm glad you explained because I was actually going to ask. So that's awesome. So if you would like to get a hold of the chief possibility officer, Athina, do you want to just share where people can find you?
Yeah. So you can email at hello@life2design.com. As Sandy mentioned, Life to Design. So LIFE, the number 2, DESIGN.com. You can reach me there. LinkedIn at Life to Design, Facebook at Life to Design. And also I have a Facebook group. It's a private group called Business Owners Raising Their Game.
And you have a little giveaway.
Yeah.
Guide to the 10 things to remember when communicating with the real world. Do you want to just share a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a short guide. So it just puts those things right in front of your face, you know, of those 10 areas to think about before you have that interaction, how to increase your active listening skills. That's what it focuses in on. So pointed areas. It's actually, I think I had down, it's week 3 of a 6-week course that I have. So it's really just honing in on that one area, what we were talking about today for the audience.
That's awesome. And we're also going to drop all this information in the show notes. So thank you, Athina. Thank you so much for being on. This was really, really great, really powerful. And for the listeners, if you resonated with what we chatted about and would like to follow us on other podcasts, just hit the subscribe button so you stay tuned for weekly updates. And we'll see you all next week. Thank you again, Athina. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.